Thank you. Welcome, everybody. For those of you not joining us live, for those of you that are joining us live, it is great to have you here for tonight's Power Hour, which is going to be all around creating a legacy for you and your family. I'm very proud to be here tonight to be able to present to you guys on this topic, because for me, it's a topic that I'm extremely passionate about. A lot about, my family has been motivations for anything that I've been able to achieve within property. And I know so many of our students come from the same space, where family, the impact that you can have for those around you, those loved ones, is a big part of the journey and a big part of why we actually go down this route of educating ourselves and learning more around what we can do in order to create this portfolio that can absolutely change our lives. Now, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Jono, and I am the CEO at Wealth Mentor. I actually have come through a journey just like you guys are today. So I actually attended a Wealth Mentor event, jeepers, 7 years ago, maybe a little bit longer ago, where I really loved what they were sharing, ended up going through the education. And the funny part is that going through the education, then deciding to buy the business. Yeah, it's not the journey for everybody, but hey, I decided to go down that route, and very proud to be here tonight to share with you a lot about that journey, but also about how many others are able to continue along a similar journey to be able to use property as a vehicle to create, again, a legacy for those loved ones around us. So before I do go any further, I can see a few of you there with your videos on. It's always nice to have videos on. I think this is probably a record percentage-wise of people on with video, so thank you. It is nice to see faces when I'm presenting and also smiling faces. If I think it might be a joke, just laugh, because it makes me feel better, and we'll have some fun as we get through the next hour or so. Before we do go any further, let's check that everybody's chat is working. So in the chat, how about you just let us all know where are you joining us from tonight? Where's everybody tonight for tonight's session? I can see already there's some people from all around New Zealand and Australia. There you go. All right, it's great to have you on here. Another Australian from Wellington. Brilliant. I'm coming to you from East Auckland in Howick. This is where the office is for Wealth Mentor, and like I said, looking forward to tonight's session. Now, what I have got in store for you guys tonight is how one deal can be a year's salary. An interesting thing about the deal that I'm going to be showing you, I guess for some people, they might go, oh, maybe that's 2 years salary. We need to shift that thinking. It's going to be 1 year's salary. So I'm going to be showing you guys a deal, how one deal can really change that whole perspective of earning an income, of creating that income through property. As well as that, guys, I'm going to be talking a little bit around how the difference between equity and leverage works, and how we can actually use equity in order to leverage to be able to buy more property, whether it's using equity within a home, whether you've purchased a property, added some value to that property, and then use that equity, go on and buy. I mean, right now, let's be honest, lending is a tough space at the moment, because we've got interest rates that have gone to, well, high compared to the last years, not overly high compared to historically, but we have got high interest rates. So that makes, a few more challenges. So what are some things that we can get around with that? Because at the end of the day, if you can solve the problem, you're going to be able to create the wealth by being able to solve the problem through the journey. So it's definitely going to be something we're talking about today. How we can look to create the wealth within our portfolio. This is a lot to do with equity and adding value to our portfolio. How we can go through that is certainly we're going to be talking about. And I've got a few current recent deals examples that I'll be able to share with you guys tonight. I've actually got 3 that we'll be sharing with you. 2 of them are currently being renovated. That's how fresh they are, and be hitting the market in the next couple of weeks. One of them, the other one, maybe a little bit longer. It's got a little bit more of a reno to do on that one, seeing as you can see the inside toilets from the outside. So a little bit about myself. I know that some of you here do know me already, but actually let me know in the chat who has met me before or seen me speak. Love to know. If not, just say nope. If you have, just say yes, nice and easy. Be great to hear. It's always nice to hear some new faces. That it's a couple of names there that I don't recognize, so it'd be cool to hear that. So a little bit about myself. For me, family is number one. Big family man. In terms of family, I think that whole value for me has been brought on by what my parents did by sacrificing the move to New Zealand. I know that's a big part for many people that have made sacrifices for your family. I always feel like the value that came from what my parents, the values, should I say, that came from my parents is something that's really, really, I guess, shaped the journey for me. My first investment property was actually on a reality TV show. So I, myself and my wife did a show called Our First Home, where we went on a show where the parents bought a property, we flipped it, and the kids then end up with the profit so that they go off and buy a home, which is really cool. Now, it was a great concept, and we were lucky enough to win the show. We made $190,000 profit on this one deal. And you know what? That was the moment where I went, okay, so right now I play tennis for a living. When I say play tennis, I coach tennis. I hit tennis balls, tell people what to do, deal with kids that don't want to be there, but their parents think that they're the next Roger Federer. And I'm earning what, 60 grand a year? Whereas you could go and do one property transaction and earn this sort of income. And it was a turning point for me, seeing what was possible, even though, yes, it's a reality TV show and there's some of it is BS. We all know that it's reality TV, but there was a lot of learnings and it really shaped the future for me. Gone on to become head of property at Wealth Mentor. Well, I can give myself that job, seeing as I am the CEO as well, and owner of the company. But I have been lucky enough to be an experienced investor and mentored many, many students through and seeing them change their lives is something that is certainly something that's pretty dear to me. And most importantly, love sport and love a good barbecue. It's probably my two passions. Do enjoy a round of golf. As you can see from this one, I actually got lucky enough to sneak out this afternoon for a wee round with mum and dad, which is really cool. My parents, and I'm going to come back to them. For my parents moving to New Zealand, you know, for anybody that's moved countries, you go and you not only dividing your money by a lot, you're leaving behind all your friends, everything that you've established. And I guess, like I said before, that's created this concept for me that I just want to provide the best possible for my kids. I want to provide the best possible for my parents. I want to do whatever I can to impact everybody around me. I'm very proud that I've been able to help my parents in leveraging some of the equity that they had in their home to be able to start building a portfolio as well, which is really, really cool. But for me, like I said, my family, I've got two daughters. There's Isla and Harley. Isla is 7 and Harley is 4. Harley is crazy, but beautiful crazy, and Isla is a soft soul. But I also do enjoy the ability to teach and share the knowledge and be able to present to you guys tonight. So thank you for giving me that opportunity by joining us tonight so that I can actually jump on here and have a little bit of a chat to you guys. Awesome. Right, enough about me. I know that you all came here for an hour of Power Hour of All About Jono, but now let's move on and let's jump into what it is in terms of your legacy. What will your legacy look like? Because when you think about the concept of legacy, what are you putting forward towards your family in terms of knowledge, in terms of wealth, in terms of intergenerational wealth? What is it for you as a person actually, I guess, triggers the emotional, that's what I would like to achieve for those loved ones around me? And you know what? When you start to understand what your legacy looked like, it probably has a lot to do with what wealth actually means to you as well. Because in terms of wealth, the concept of wealth, you hear wealth out, you're walking the streets and everybody thinks of wealth as money. They think of wealth as how much dollars you've got in your bank account. How many properties do you have? As property investors, that's a classic question. So how many properties do you have? But is wealth really about that? Or is wealth about what you have in terms of your loved ones, time with family? Do you love what you do in terms of your daily jobs? Like I'm here on 8 o'clock on a Wednesday night. I love the opportunity to do that. Does that create your wealth? What does wealth mean to you? Because that also has a big impact on what the legacy is that you guys are going to be taking forward. And when you think about it, one investment property done correctly will change your life. we teach our students to be able to purchase multiple properties to achieve their financial freedom, to be able to create what they would like out of property. But when you think about one investment property done correctly, and when you get gains over a few years, on top of that getting cash flow, on top of that being able to have your wealth growing at faster than at inflation rates rather than having it in the bank and going backwards, one investment done right will change your life and will change your family's life. And for some people, one investment property is all you want. But for some of you, and I guarantee most of you that are on here, because you've taken the time on a Wednesday night to come and join me, you want more. And you want to know how you can do more, create more for you and your family. And I told you, one deal can change, can support a year's salary. And you know what? For this one deal, we're going to head down to the South Island. And we're going to go to Timaru. And I'm going to show you, I did mention that you can see the water from outside. I'm going to show you a deal that one of our students has settled on just last month. Now, this property was purchased at 160. It does require a $160,000 renovation. That is definitely on the higher side in terms of budgets and just making sure that there is some good contingency, because as you can see, there is a bit of work to be done from that photo. I did mention earlier that one of the houses, you could see that through the house into the toilet. Well, here it is for you in its flesh. In terms of this property as well, it's got a post-renovation value looking at $480,000 plus. In terms of that, once you take into account your fees, we're looking at about $140,000 of profit on one deal. I bet some of you are going, yeah, but John, we have to pay tax on that. Yes, you do. If you're selling a property, your intention is to sell it and flip it over. But do you hear your salary and go, oh, I'm getting 140 grand, but I have to pay tax on it? We just become accustomed and we realize that tax is a part of earning an income. And if you're going to be flipping property, you should be paying taxes. You should be supporting our councils and supporting roads, all those side of things. It's part of what it is as being an investor. Now, you may look at this and go, well, I don't want to go and buy a property in Timaru. I don't know why you'd say that, because it's got $140,000 profit with only $160,000 purchase price. But you may go, you know what, I don't even want to trade property. All I would like to do is build up a small portfolio so that I can support my family. Now, in terms of that, it comes back down to you knowing what your goal is, which is coming back a couple of steps ago, what I was discussing. Figure out what your goal is. Because once you actually understand your goal, then we can actually start to take the next steps in terms of your portfolio generation. You've established your goal, what it is you're looking to achieve through your property investment. Then the first thing we need to do is decide on what strategy within your property investment journey is best going to support you and best get you to your ultimate goal. Now, that ultimate goal and the strategy will also come into play in terms of how much financial backing, whether it's your own financial ability, equity that you have, friends and family, or none at all. The strategy will be dependent on that position, where you want to get to, and what your starting position is financially. Once we can establish a strategy that's going to get you to your goal, the next part down is actually then deciding on an area that supports that strategy. And I'm going to give you a really, really simple example in this regard. If you were going to do student accommodation, that was your strategy because you wanted to rent by the room so you could get extra income on your property so that you can ensure you're generating as much income cash flow as you can. Doing a student accommodation in, let's say, where's an area where there's no students at the moment, or an area, Huntly. Don't know why Huntly got a mention today. Let's say Huntly. That's not a strategy that you would implement within that area. I told you it's a really obvious example, but that's essentially what it is, but from a much more drilled down basis, understanding exactly what area you can look to implement for that type of deal. Because the deal comes last. So often people decide that they're going to buy a property, and it either ends up one of two ways. Either they purchase themselves a new property and keep the existing property as a rental. Who's heard of that happen to people they know? Yeah, a few nods, very common. Second way, they driving on the way to work, 7 a.m., drive past the property just down the road and go, oh, that's a nice house. I can see a sign outside. That's great. I can drive past on the way to work every day and make sure that the tenants are mowing the lawns. That's another way that people end up in property. Or they head along to a seminar and someone says, you should buy this property because in 5 years' time, this property will be worth this. Now, I really want to know where they find their crystal ball that they can establish what their property is going to be worth in 5 years. Because tell you what, that would make investing a whole lot easier if you knew exactly how much it was going to be worth. We don't know this. What we do know is that we do get growth on property through time. And you look historically over the last 100 or so years, property has doubled in value every 7 to 10 years. I'll say it again, property double in value every 7 to 10 years. But what we do is when we go into it, we ensure that we are buying the right types of property for us. Now, again, coming back to a seminar, and they said, say, we don't sell property. We are purely an education company. We're all about making sure that people have the knowledge to be able to make informed decisions on their investing. We don't provide properties. Because at the end of the day, we want to make the right decisions based on, again, our SAD principle. And rather than employing a buy and hope strategy, we can start to have a strategy that works for us achieving our goals. Now, in terms of strategies, there is a number of different ways that strategies can be done. But what I've done is I've broken them down into 5 main strategies. Within these, we do have sub-strategies, we call them. But essentially what we've got is owning a home. And some of you might go, well, you're talking investment properties. Well, owning a home can be part of the investment journey. And owning a home can also contribute massively to your wealth and also the legacy that you leave. And it might be the first step. And I would hate for you to look at it and go, well, making a decision based on your home is an emotional one. If it is that you are looking to go on and purchase multiple properties, because then you need to look at it from an investment standpoint. Buy and hold, the most common of all strategies where people are going in and buying properties in order to get incremental gain over time, but also by buying and holding correctly, by getting the right yield for your properties, you can actually look to create cash flow. Now, right now, we have the most challenging market in terms of creating cash flow. We can't deny that. We've got interest rates as high as they've been for a while, and we've got something called interest deduction. But if we can work our way around using different strategies that maybe we can claim the interest or ensure that we're getting enough income from the properties to still support a cash flow, that there is going to be a key principle for anyone going forward right now. But it's also about the value that you can buy. Flipping properties, obviously a great strategy and one that you can certainly use in terms of being able to create profit along the way, quick amounts of profit, turning properties over, multi-income properties, like I mentioned, student accommodation before, or developments. Again, a space that has great outcomes in terms of profitability, but there is slightly more risk. And we've had many of our students do extremely well in this space, whether it is developed to hold or developed to on-sell, some of them or all of them as well. So there's definitely some strategies that we can talk about. And we do cover a lot of these strategies in one of our events, which we call the Property Masterclass, which I can share with you guys a little bit more detail about later on tonight. Now, I mentioned that property doubles in value every 7 to 10 years. Have a look at this graph. We can see that over time, and if you have a look right at the top, we have a little bit of a dip, but over time we've seen incremental growth over years and years, property doubling in value every 17 years. So what I'm going to show you is if you were to purchase a couple of properties and having growth on those properties, how that would look. Now, I want to stress, we can't predict what the growth is. We can look at what has happened historically and we can make assumptions on that regard, but we need to buy property as though it is working in its current format. I'll share a little bit more about that in a really short amount of time. But if we do have values going up, let's say, for example, that you've managed to secure yourself 4 investment properties. And for the purpose of this, just so that you guys get the concept of growth through properties and gaining wealth, if you've got 4 properties, $500,000 each, and I'm just taking a nice round number, and over a period of time, let's say that properties increase in value 5 to 10%. Remember that these are compounding interest. So property grows by 5% and then it grows on 5% on the new value. So we do have compounding growth over that period as well. If you have that sort of growth over a 5-year period, we could be looking at up to $250,000 of growth. Now, this, again, I just want to stress, this is just an example of how growth can add to the wealth of your portfolio. But you can see by following this concept, we now ended up with a $3 million portfolio, which has $1.6 million of equity in it. It's essentially a wealth gain of $1 million. And I know I'm kind of contradicting myself a little bit because I keep saying don't rely on the growth, but you can see how much a great byproduct growth is on having and owning a portfolio. Because then you look at maybe a little bit of a long-term growth. And I've mentioned to you guys that over 7 to 10 years, we're seeing properties double in value. Well, then we can start to look at what we have over a period of time where we've actually created a property portfolio that's doubled in value and now has almost, $2 million of wealth gain. The thing is, by doing this, your debt over those years does not change. The properties are growing in value. That there is a really key principle. Your debt hasn't changed. Now, for some of you, you might go, well, okay, I've developed a portfolio and I'd like to pay down some of the debt that I have on my portfolio. What if we went and actually paid down 2 of those properties? We sold them off. Bear in mind as well, if you hold them over those 10 years period, there's no tax whatsoever on selling them. You sell off 2 of these properties and you pay off the debts. Suddenly, we now have no lending on these properties. Interest rate rises don't really worry you. And you get all the rents as cash flow. There's no expense from an interest principal. It's just pure cash flow. The point that I'm really trying to raise here is the ability to go in, use a small amount of money, because bear in mind here, we've only put $150,000 in to buy that $500,000 property, a small amount of money in, leverage that money by using a bank, a lender, and get growth on that whole value. You've put $150,000 in as a deposit, but you're getting growth on $500,000. Again, the leverage is really, really important. Now, I talk about the growth in equity and being able to leverage equity. I just quickly want to share with you guys in terms of what equity actually is. What's the concept of equity and how does that come into the principle of growing a portfolio? So, in terms of, let's take a nice round number. You've got yourself a home and that home is worth $1 million. Okay. Now that home there, you have a mortgage. So ASB, ANZ has a mortgage on this property of say $400,000. Over the period, you now have a debt of 400, a value of 1 mil, meaning the difference is your equity in the property. Now, the next concept that you really need to understand is something that we talk about, which is actually called LVR. I'm sure it's a concept that you guys have heard before, loan to value ratio, very important for how much you can borrow against the property or how much you can borrow based on your deposit. So what is LVR? Let me share with you quickly what LVR is, and I'll put the two together and show you how you can actually use the equity to be able to build our portfolio. I've just got my presentation's frozen on me. There we go. What is LVR? So again, we got $1 million property and the bank's going, we are happy to lend you 80% of the value of your property. So you've now got an 80% LVR, meaning that the bank's saying, we'll lend you $800,000 based on the value of your property. But then we want to look at, now I talked about equity before, let's talk about usable equity. So you've got this value sitting there and the bank's willing to lend you 80% on the property. But if we go back a couple of slides, I told you that you've already got a $400,000 loan against this property. So then we look at it in terms of $1 million, 80% is what we can borrow, 40% is essentially our loan, or $400,000. That giving you $400,000 of what we call as usable equity. Now that usable equity essentially means that you've got a deposit right there. That $400,000 is a deposit for additional properties. Again, little caveat, it does depend on the income supporting that debt as well. So we do need to make sure that there is a serviceability to be able to gain that debt. And that way it comes down to making sure we buy the right types of property to service the debts. And I will show you an example really, really shortly. But if you've got that equity sitting there, you've got $400,000 of equity sitting in your property. That's pretty cool. And it's wealth and it's great. But what's it really doing if you're not leveraging that into buying more property? What's that equity really doing for you? All it's doing is saving you the interest on the money. What if you use that equity to purchase more property, leverage it into purchasing more, gaining more wealth by buying properties below value and adding value to them and being able to buy cash flowing properties? So let me show you what I mean. We had a $400,000 property before. If we take that usable equity, divide it by our deposit that we require, it actually gives us how much buying power we have, how much we can actually go and spend on an additional property. That is the power of usable equity and being able to leverage it into additional dwellings. Let me show you the exact numbers for this one. Again, we had that $1 million. 80% is what we can borrow, so $800,000. We have a $400,000 loan on the property already. So if we have a 60% loan to value ratio being how much you can borrow. So you can borrow 60%, you have to put a 40% deposit in. So divide by 40%. That essentially means you can take your equity and go and buy another property for $1 million. The power of leveraging equity. The power of leveraging equity. So now, I guess the question comes, what type of property do we buy? You've told us not to buy the one down the street. You told us not to sell our house and then keep that as rental. You told us as well, and I'm saying potentially not, because it all depends on it, but also you're saying we want to make sure that we're buying cash flowing properties, high income properties, and we're also buying the ability to add value to properties. Let me show you an example of a property that one of our students bought towards late last year. Purchase price was $733,000. Property did require renovation. It required $35,000 of renovation on this property. Now, this property, after all expenses, earns the client $13,000 annually in cash flow. The post-reno value has come in at $950,000. Again, 733 purchase, 35 reno, it is now worth $950. You do the maths, it's about $190,000 of value added, $180,000 of value added, $180,000 of wealth that you've added to your legacy right there. And this property was 100% lent, which means they used equity from a home to be able to buy this property, 100% LVR, which is really cool. But that's all very well and good, buying this property that puts $1,000 in your bank account every month and has $180,000 of wealth gain. But how do we go on and be able to do it again and again and again and again and leverage the property into the next one and be able to build a portfolio that suits whatever it is we're looking to achieve through our portfolio? And again, until we reach our financial goals. And this, for me, is a formula that I share on most of my sessions because I truly believe it is the key principle in terms of being able to build a portfolio in order to be able to build wealth. When you purchase the property, you need to be purchasing it below its market value. You need to find a way or look to create ways of adding perceived value to the property. You purchase it below value, you add value to the property. And what you in turn end up with is something called an equity gain. This is what we just saw on the property that Litz bought. 733 purchased below market value. Added the value by the $35,000 renovation. It's then coming at $950, adding that $180,000 of equity gain to the property. Really, really cool. Which then gives us the ability to do one of two things. Revalue, to refinance the property and go again. So get a valuation, or you can sell it if you want. Could have sold that property and made $150,000 of profit. It's not bad. Or hang on to it, enjoy the equity that you've created, enjoy the cash flow, and go on and purchase the next one. Now I'm going to throw an absolute curveball at you right now. I want you to go into every property transaction with the concept of that property never increasing value. Oh, Vincent, great question. So 100% loan on the property is because you're using equity or equity sitting within a home, and that there creates a security for the 100% lending for the new dwelling. Very good question, though. So buy properties that are never increasing in value. Well, why would we look to do that? Let me show you an example. Okay, simple numbers: $300,000 purchase. You've got a deposit coming in the property of 120, a mortgage of 180. But we use the principle, which is buy below value, add value. Property now becomes valued or revalued, and I'm using some nice round numbers, at 500. Remember, we originally bought it at 300. We can now get a new mortgage against this property of $300,000. Remember, the banks are willing to lend us 60%. That's a 60% LVR. That then, coming back to it, we already have a mortgage on the property. If you remember, we had to put in 120. We borrowed 180 to purchase a $300,000 property. So we already have $180,000 mortgage on the property. But what that means is the $120,000 difference between the new mortgage and the old mortgage. Can you guys see that? That there is our equity creation. That there is what we then use on our new loan. $120,000 divided by our 40% means we go and buy another property for $300,000. We used one $300,000 property to go and leverage to purchase another one for $300,000. Who likes that idea? In the chat's been a bit quiet, besides Vincent's question and Carol's comments. Who likes the idea of this? Now, what I'd like to share with you, as you all type up how yes or yes, I'm keen, is I'd like to show you another way to look at that same property. So the same property, if that property had gone in without 100% loan. So in this situation, someone's come in and they put a deposit down for the property. You put in the deposit, you get the lending through the bank. They actually had a loan approved for 70% LVR. So that's why I've run the numbers on a 70% LVR for this one. So $222,000 is the deposit that they would have had to put in for this purchase. Again, coming with that new value. If they had gone down the route of that, this is actually double the cash flow on this property. They now have $24,000 of income per year from one property on purchase. But the funny thing is, it's actually better return when you go look at the fact that it's 100% LVR. But in terms of the cash flow, that really is such a key principle, because that then, no matter what the market does, no matter if we have property prices increase, property prices drop, we have the cash flow there to support us. Excuse me. We've purchased above below value. We've added the value. There's equity there as a safety net. And in terms of that, we are then making sure we buy the right types of property to keep going again. Because if we look at our property, we actually now have the ability to refinance. We have a $950,000 property. New lending at 70% means that you can now get $665. The original loan at $511. The renovation there, meaning $153,000 of money can come out of this deal. If we take that $150,000, that means a new loan can be used just based on the equity that this property has created of $511. And coming back to it, the key right now is serviceability, income. But you've got a property that is still at 100% lending, still creating $13,000 of income. That supports new lending and gets the ability to then go out and purchase that next property. Is that all making sense for everybody? Like, those of you who have your cameras on, give me a nod. Those of you that don't have your cameras on, give me a nod and I'll pretend I can see it. A little bit confusing for some of you. Cool. No worries. We can definitely cover that off, KB. I know you're already joining us at the masterclass, man. We're going to make sure that you are on top of this and all over it. Because what we want to do is we want to ensure that we have a plan going forward. We want to ensure that we're buying the right types of property to create the goal, to create the financial freedom figure that works for you guys. So don't just buy off the plan, have a plan and figure out the strategy that's best going to get you to where you want to get to. Now, I did tell you guys that I would be sharing with you a couple of deals. I'm going to share with you a deal that I'm currently doing myself. This deal, I settled on it late last year, and it's this beautiful thing right here. You say beautiful. It's not, well, it wasn't that beautiful. It's becoming a lot more beautiful by the day. This property was purchased late last year in Otara. I've got a couple of before photos. Some handsome man jumped in one of my photos. Apologies for that one. A couple of before photos, a bit of a random sort of layout. The interesting thing is that door that you can see in the kitchen, That's the only way that you could get to the toilet. So we did have to do a little bit of a layout change. Yep, you had to go through the kitchen to get to the toilet. Not ideal. So we've done a little bit of a layout change, and it's in the process. This should be hitting the market early. It's actually, photos are booked in for the 1st of February. So it will be on the market early February. This property here, I'll give you some numbers in terms of what it's done. Asking price on the property was 669. We purchased it at 575. It's got a capital value of 770. For anyone that does like to know the CV, I'm not massive on it myself. Renovation, $45,000 going into it. It'll be on the market, like I mentioned, 1st of February is when the photos, so maybe 2nd. Give the agent a couple of hours to get that listing up there and get those photos edited. Post-reno value, we're expecting to sell it for 740 plus. 750 is our ultimate number that we are looking for on this property. And you'll notice that I keep saying we. The reason I say we is because I'm actually not paying for this property myself. So if you currently on this call and going, well, John, I don't have money to buy property. I put none of my money into this deal, and I'm getting half the profits just by organizing and finding the deal and facilitating. The key is not the fact that I know how to swing a hammer, because I do not. Believe me, there is something that I am forced to tell a story at our property masterclass about the time I left the hammer in the wall on national television. Believe me, I do not swing the hammer at all. But the key is the knowledge to be able to bring it together, to pull the deals together. Approximately $90,000 plus or minus on profit. Half of that, $45,000 to $50,000 of profit without actually having to put any of my own capital in. It's the key principle. Thank you, Carol. But for me, it's not about sharing the fact that I'm getting, the profits that have been made. It's showing you what is possible, but it's also showing what's possible for the impact that you make for those loved ones. And I'm going to take this opportunity just to share with you what I believe the impact that it's making within my loved ones. I had a situation the other day. We'll talk about where the girl's choosing carpets right now, but Isla right now is on this whole concept of how can I create money? She's got this idea, and currently she keeps going. Anytime a lemon tree's got any lemons, she'd go jump on, grab some lemons, walk out, and she's making some good profit. People pay over. I don't know if it's just the cuteness that means that people always pay over, but she's making some good money in that regard. We actually had one of our students come and stay with us and have a couple of beers. She created a game where he had to throw paper into a cup and was charging him to do it. I love it. She's figuring out ways to create income. And it's not because I'm teaching her, forcing her onto this concept. She's seeing what's being done and the way that we operate. Having them on site to be able to go and choose the carpets. How special is that for me to see the family pulling together and be able to do this together? Again, it's about creating a lifestyle. It's pretty. Yeah, I think she's got an entrepreneurial head on her. I couldn't agree more. Now, I have mentioned the property masterclass a couple of times. I want to actually quickly share with you guys a little bit about what it is that we have in terms of our property masterclass. I have also got one of our students who's doing a really cool deal at the moment, who's going to share a little bit about his journey. It's actually the first deal that we showed you tonight is the deal in Timaru. I've got Tim. He's going to talk a little bit about that really shortly. But what we've got is our property masterclass. Now, this is a virtual event that we are holding. The next one is the 11th and 12th of February. So this is only just about 4 weeks away. It's 2 days virtually, but it is very interactive. It's streamed directly to your office, your living room, wherever you'd like to jump in and watch it. It is really an amazing couple of days that we hold in terms of being able to educate and take you guys through all these principles, these concepts. I know I'll race through it, but in detail, and make sure we spend some time one-on-one with you to be able to make sure that you're able to learn and grow on all these different concepts within property investing. Part of it as well is we make sure that you leave with a solid plan. You get to meet with one of our mentors during the actual masterclass to ensure that you are creating a plan going forward and connecting into a network, a pretty amazing network, I might say so myself. And I could see a couple of our students on here as well. You're welcome to say something nice as well, students, if you like. At this point, I wouldn't complain. But joining a fantastic network. So what do we actually cover on the masterclass? So it is 2 days. They are fairly full-on days, but again, that is an interactive event. We actually play games. We have strategy sessions. We cover off a number of different topics, from strategies to formulas to how we can actually utilize other people's money. I told you I just bought that deal with none of my own money. How was that done? How do we ensure that we're doing it the most tax efficient way? We've got Helen, who's one of our mentors and an extremely capable property accountant who will be presenting on taxes. Guys, if you own one investment property you're looking to, that hour on taxes alone will ensure that you're making the right decisions and purchasing the right structures and ensuring you're the most tax efficient. You get to learn all about the power teams, negotiation. That's always a really good one. Social housing, claim that interest deduction. We're also going to be able to share with you guys the buying rules, key buying rules to ensure that you are keeping yourself safe, that you are creating the wealth and continue the growth within your property portfolio. That is what we cover off in a nutshell, but it is very much a wealth of knowledge, but at the same time, lots of interactive, lots of one-on-one breakouts, the ability to ask questions, the ability to leave those 2 days with all of your questions answered. That is something we are big on. We've always got this concept that if you leave the masterclass and your questions aren't answered, it's not because we didn't answer, it's because you didn't ask it. A couple of the team that we do have at our masterclass, Belinda, excuse me, is one of the other main presenters, built an extremely amazing portfolio. She's converted motels into residential accommodation, originally started her investing from Perth and is now based over in Raglan, occasionally heads back to Perth. Therese, based down in Queenstown, awesome portfolio. Paul Southey, this guy's built over 750 homes. He's on most of the master builders and local boards. He's great knowledge and gives us a lot of insight on the market. He talks around developments. Ryan, who is, we actually call Ryan our resident economist. The dude's knowledge in the economy and how it's all coming together, but he puts it in a nice simple way for us, is brilliant. So Ryan spends some time talking around the market and what we're seeing in terms of the market. Carol's here tonight. You guys would have seen Carol floating around. Carol is also during the masterclass, and she's a beautiful energy and shares her knowledge on social housing, which is very, very important. I mentioned Helen in terms of taxes. Helen's portfolio, we're talking about nearing on $15 million worth of portfolio. She started her education with Wealth Mentor like 4.5 years ago. She's one of our mentors and she is exceptional, and she is part of the team. And I'm just kind of there to pull this amazing team together. I don't really do much when you got an amount of knowledge from the team around us. So you get to have access to all these guys over the 2 days, which is pretty special. We're really, really proud of what we do have in terms of the property masterclass. Again, it's about creating a journey and a process and a plan for you, because everybody's different. Not everybody's journey is going to be the same. Again, those dates for you guys. I might actually there we go. I can actually drop a link for you guys. I'm sure some of you are interested to know a little bit more. So I'll drop the link in there and you can head across and find out more information about what it is in terms of the masterclass. There is a discount code coming. So when you get there, make sure you hang on, because you'll see the prices at $14.97. I'm giving you a cracker opportunity today to jump on and get the masterclass, a one-on-one strategy call with the team leading up to the masterclass, lifetime support from us at Wealth Mentor, online resources. You get a consultation during the the masterclass as well, where you get to spend around half an hour with one of the mentors purely on your position and what you're looking to achieve. That there is really, really quite special. And I told you it's not going to be $14.97. We're offering it at only $295 today. $295. That there, you will get that value back in no time. I can absolutely guarantee it. Now, I did share with you guys, and I'll come back to the opportunity to grab this at $295, because some of you might be heading across and filling out some forms. And I've got, I'll make sure that you guys are supported through the process of filling out those forms, but I want you to listen in while you're filling out those forms, because I want to introduce you to someone called Tim. And the fact that Tim has bought that deal in Timaru, I'm not sure if he did that on purpose, But it's great to actually have you jump in, Tim, and have a bit of a chat. Are you there, my friend?
I am, Jono. How are you, mate?
I'm doing great. So good to hear that accent again.
What a deal, mate. My God, 295. What a steal.
How much did you pay?
Like 3,500.
Correct.
And it was still worth it?
Correct.
Yeah,
All right, cool. So let's start off with, I shared it with everybody, your deal earlier on today.
Yep.
Now, do you like just to keep things nice and rounded, like buy it for 160, spend 160 and make about 160 profit? Is that how you plan things?
I like simple accounting, sort of. It works out quite well, doesn't it?
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about how this deal is going about, and also, the things that we talked about today as well. We had a little bit of a discussion around what's been going on with it.
Yeah, cool. So little 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom down in Timaru. Obviously, you can see from the photo that John posted that it needs a bit of love and tender care. But the deal stacks up based on what we purchased it for, the renovation side of things, and you saw what the sort of projections were there for profit. So certainly a well worth deal with, pretty much a year's salary involved in getting that one once we've got it completed. And then, as Jono alluded to, we've had conversations with local agents in town, and it looks like we might actually be able to sell the property for a reasonable profit as it is before we even start renovating, just because we've brought so well. So we're in negotiations at the moment with one purchasing party, and if we're able to sell it, then I think we'll make about $65,000 profit. So not bad considering we've only owned it for about 6 weeks.
Not bad at all, Tim. Not bad, and all done from Melbourne as well, which is pretty cool as well.
Right.
Did pop over for a little bit, and we had a couple of beers, which was fantastic.
Yeah, exactly.
Your first deal after you did the masterclass, the first purchase. Yes, tell us quickly about what you had purchased.
As a ripper, I've got a photo of it up on my wall. Keeps reminding me. So first deal after the masterclass was epic. I sort of went out really hot, really keen to pick up something substantial, and managed to end up buying an old mansion that had been converted to 6 units internally, all on separate titles, so you can rent them all out individually. Went through and identified that it had some issues, which we played to our favor, made sure that we purchased it for a really good price. So we ended up buying all 6 units for just over $600,000. Went through and then sort of did a pretty decent renovation. The roof was quite gone, so I had to replace the whole roof and fixed up a couple other units. I think we spent, from memory, about $140,000 on the renovation for the entire building. And then the valuation that we had done, I think it was about 6 or 8 months later, came in at $1.25 million. So we're actually up very close to $500,000 inside of that sort of 9-month period on our first deal.
Not too bad, my friend, not too bad.
Not too bad at all.
So, and also on that property as well, not just the actual gain, but also the income associated to it. So weekly, approximately how much rent would you achieve over the 6 units?
I think we're nudging about $105,000 a year in rental return. And I think at the time when we did our initial numbers, it was about $40,000 a year cash flow positive, after paying everything and having it managed and you're all taken care of.
Yeah. Yeah, and with that, guys, just again, taxes, there are taxes involved in certain spaces, and we do cover that off on the masterclass and how you can be tax efficient with this, but there are taxes involved that we do need to consider. We're not trying to hide that by any means. So on that note, I mentioned the masterclass, and even just the hour of tax with Helen is an absolute gem. If anyone here is considering the concept of joining us, because I know that you even head along to most of them yourself, you did say today, yeah, I'm in. I want to support everybody that is heading along. What would you say to anybody considering the idea of joining us for a couple of days?
It's a no-brainer, really. It is. I think if you've even got a remote interest in property, I think especially at the price point that you guys have got it down to now, that 295, like, people buy lottery tickets for more than that and have a much worse chance of getting any return from this. So I would say for sure, if you've got any even remote interest in property, whether you're ready to buy or not, education is the key. And who you can meet along the way is really important. Get along, do the 2 days, ask as many questions as you can. I think I asked about 1 million questions in my masterclass, and they all got answered, including some prickly ones with the accountant. So Just really good to understand sort of differences between Australia and New Zealand, and getting to the bottom of all those different taxes was extremely beneficial. But yeah, I think if you've got the interest, you have to go along. You'd be mad to miss out on that, especially at that price.
Yeah, absolutely. And you hit along about 2 years ago, I think it was.
Yeah, it was. But yeah, November 2020, I think it was.
Okay, cool. So just over 2 years. Brilliant. Yeah. So on that note, when do you start work again? What's your year looking like?
I've got an interesting year, actually. I've decided to wrap up my construction business after 15 years, and are now completely a free agent, and pouring all of my time into property this year. So yeah, if we can look at making 60 grand in the first 6 weeks, it looks like it's going to be a pretty amazing year to come. Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations on that. It's really great to see, and I look forward to seeing all you achieve this year, and look forward to being there on the journey with you, mate. Well done, and yeah, thanks for joining us tonight. No worries. Thank you for your help so far. It's my pleasure. All right. On that note, guys, thank you so much, Tim, for joining us. I did mention that I would show you exactly how you can fill out those forms if you've headed along to the website. And you would have ended up on a page that looks a little bit like this. Now, I'd like to talk you through it because I want to make sure that you pay $295 and not $14.97, or you can pay $3.50 like Tim did a couple of years ago. It's cool with me. So if you head across to the actual website, you will see when you fill out your details down the bottom, just under where it says password strength, there's a spot that says have a coupon, right? Come on, right there. Cool. Now make sure you click on that, and that's when you will then put in the coupon code to DEAL295. Straight away, that will change the price point down to $295 for you guys, so you can make sure you do get the ability to jump on this exceptional deal to spend 2 days with all of our team. Again, it looks like this. You put your $295 in, and that'll make sure that you guys are able to jump in and grab the ability at $295 to spend the weekend with us. Now, I want to add something onto that as well, because it's not very important that you go along this with somebody that wants to join you on the journey. Having that support person, doing it with a friend, whether it's your partner or whether it's a friend, they come along as well for free. So you actually end up with 2 tickets to the masterclass at no charge to have your friend join you. Absolutely. So one more time, I just want to share with you those inclusions. Now, if anybody does have any questions, I'm happy as well to hang around at the end of tonight's Power Hour and answer any of those questions. But once again, what's involved? We got the 2-day masterclass, which is streamed virtually, interactive though, so you don't have to just listen to us for 2 days. We have conversations. We're constantly having a nice interactive event. It is very, very personable. You have a one-on-one consultation during the event as well with one of our mentors, working through your position, how we can get you to where you want to get to, access to the online resourcing community, lifetime support from Wealth Mentor, a strategy call leading up, which is done by Carol, who's on the call tonight. So, hey, there's $295 of value right there just to have a chat to Carol. I have no doubt about that one. So you end up with the 2 tickets at only $295, guys. So I really believe it's an opportunity to jump in, to change what we have coming up this year, change the legacy, and start to prepare for what you want to create out of this year. Excuse me. It's time to act and claim your place. If you're still at this stage and not sure whether the masterclass is right for you, I'm going to add one more thing that should make it an absolute no-brainer. At lunchtime on day 1, and if you're like, you know what, Jono, it's not for me, then I'm quite happy to refund you your full $295. I'm that confident by lunchtime on day 1, you will enjoy, you will get the value, and you will want to be there to continue to learn. What do you have to lose, guys? Again, we can pop that link in there. There it is for you. The coupon code, DEAL95. You can also grab your phone and do the magic where you open your camera, scan on that QR code, and magically the website will appear and you can get yourself your tickets to join us at the Property Masterclass on the 11th and 12th of February. If those dates are an issue for you, don't worry, we will have another date coming out for late March as well. But really you want to get in there because right now, 2023 is the opportunity right in front of us.
Those that are acting, learning, growing are going to create the most wealth through this period. Those that are reading the New Zealand Herald are probably going to be scared and not do anything and take advantage of the opportunity that's right in front of us. So decide on what path we're going to take. Are we going to do nothing and keep doing what we've always done? Or is it time to take action, invest, and grow? Thank you guys for jumping on tonight. The time is now. Get yourself a spot. Here's a couple of what people have said about the masterclass. If you're not sure at this stage, hang around, let me answer some questions, and I'm sure you will decide on wanting to spend those couple of days with us. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. It is great to have you, and I look forward to seeing you all very, very shortly. Once again, at the end of time, I will hang around and answer any questions. Good night, everybody.